What I saw in the media was a disparity in the coverage of missing people of color.
We're not trying to dishonor any community. We're just trying to even a playing field.
Since our inception in 2008, there have been 1.2 million people of color reported missing.
That's the voice of Natalie Wilson. We have her online, the co-founder and chief operations officer of Black and Missing, Inc. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to do this because we need some information. We need some insight on what's going on in this country. And I know that your organization mission is to bring awareness to missing persons of color, nationally provide vital resources and tools for the families of missing individuals, provide educational training. So thank you. Welcome to the show, Natalie Wilson.
Thank you.
I want to talk about Hope Without Boundaries. I know you guys are doing this 5K run and walk that's taking place June 3rd in National Harbor, Maryland. What is that about?
So we want to bring awareness to our missing, and we're asking our community to join us and join these families of missing people to walk on June 3rd to help us find us and to bring awareness to this issue. You know, we're just starting to have a national conversation around missing people of color because of what is reported in D.C. But we've been saying this all along. This is nothing new. Since the organization started in 2008, we have been sounding the alarm that our people are going missing at an alarming rate.
Of the missing children, what percentage are due to abduction by a stranger as opposed to abduction by someone they know?
Well, most children or most people are abducted by someone that they know. But what we're seeing in our community are our children are being lured into sex trafficking, especially our children that are in foster care and our homeless children. They're the most vulnerable, and those are the ones that are being affected. That's what we're seeing an uptick in.
You know, in this narrative, what seems to be most dominant in the conversation is people's perception that most of these girls are runaways and that they're choosing to, run away from their families and they're going missing on their own accord. And that seems to be dominating the headlines and narrative right now. What are your thoughts on that? Is that dangerous?
Well, we do know that some of the girls left their home on their own accord and they returned. However, you have to ask, what are they running away from and what are they running away to? We do know that most kids that run away are involved in sex trafficking. So we have to, be mindful as to what's going on in their lives. And we can't just dismiss this, and that's what I'm afraid of. People are just not going to take this conversation seriously anymore and say that, oh, these kids ran away. Well, sometimes there are kids who did not run away and will need us to get involved and will need our help in finding them.
This is Natalie Wilson, who's the co-founder and chief operations officer of Black and Missing, Inc. Matter of fact, Natalie, you have social media that people could reach you at, or a site or a location they could go to if they want to find out more information about this?
Absolutely. They can go to bamfi.org. That's bamfi.org.
Let me ask you, I watched this show called 48 Hours a lot, and it deals with murder. And with first 48. First 48 hours. And it deal with murder. And the general consensus is with a murder case is that you got about 48 hours before the trail turns cold. When it comes to people being abducted or missing children, what time span do you need to be in order to be effective in finding them?
Well, around the same time frame. Time is of the essence. The longer it takes, clues are being lost. And, we know that there's a sense of distrust in our community with the police and law enforcement, but somebody knows something, and we need to get away from this no snitching. Someone just doesn't vanish off the face of the earth, and no one knows anything. But awareness is key, and time is of the essence to find our missing.
Natalie, I have a question for you. I'm curious so we talk a lot about the discrepancy in the media between black and brown children versus white children, and how normally in the media we see the white children, get promoted more so on your local news and the national news and the Amber Alerts. I was reading somewhere where they said that in instances it's usually because white families usually report to the police and then they go to PR firms. Is that true? Is that why we see the discrepancy in the media? And if so, how can black parents and black community members make sure to elevate the conversation to bring attention to our children who go missing within that critical 48 hours?
Well, what we're hearing from parents also, when their child goes missing, law enforcement is classifying them as a runaway. So if you're classified as a runaway, you do not receive the Amber Alert, and you definitely don't receive any type of coverage. So we ask parents, you have to remain vigilant and fight for your child. If you do not believe that your child ran away, then make sure that they're classified properly. And as an organization, if you contact us, we have a number of media partners, especially the Griot, the Root, Essence, Ebony, and we can help you promote or bring awareness to your missing child. Because we understand that in our community, the family members may not have the wherewithal or they don't have the resources to contact these stations, these news stations, to get the coverage.
How do we get individuals to change that narrative, though? Because what I'm hearing from you is that when they do report by default, it seems like they're runaways, so then therefore no resources are allocated. Should we, as community members, those of us who care about our children, should now we question law enforcement and chief of police when we go to the ballot box to ask them these questions about how do they classify missing children, to let them know that we're watching?
Absolutely. We have to take a stand. And it's not just law enforcement. It's the media. It's our community. We have to take a stand and fight for our children, or no one else will. We need to, hold our elected leaders accountable and make sure they pass laws that can benefit our community.
Hi, Natalie, this is DB. I was just wondering if somebody feels that the police or law enforcement isn't being effective enough in locating their child, would you recommend going to like a private investigator or somebody like that?
If they have the resources to do that. However, our organization, we can help them with that. My sister-in-law, who's a co-founder, she's a veteran law enforcement official. So that's what we do. We walk families through this process with working with law enforcement and with the media.
Natalie, this is Tracy. I have a question for you. And it might seem obvious, but can you talk about preventative measures? Like, what should the conversation sound like from parent to child to see if we can stop this from happening?
Well, we need to open the lines of communication with our children. Everyone has a phone, an iPad. We need to check to see who they're talking to on social media. We say all the time, if you live in my household, you don't have any privacy. I need to check your browser history, to see who you're talking to. And we ask parents to create a fictitious account on Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media platform, and see if you can befriend your child and see if they will give you personal or vital information. And I'll tell you a quick story. There was a young girl 2 weeks ago who went missing from Baltimore. She met someone on an online dating site. He picked her up from he picked her up from school, took her to D.C., sexually assaulted her, trafficked her. An Uber driver saw this young lady and, alerted us, and we got the FBI involved. But you have to know who your child is talking to on social media. You have to know who your child's friends are, because there are people people in school who are, helping these traffickers get these kids.
Mm-hmm.
To add on to what you're saying, Natalie, in which I totally agree, thank you so much. Parents also, and my friend just did this. If you pay for your child's phone and they're on your phone line, you can pay to receive their text messages as well.
Right.
I had no idea that this exists. So my friend is now watching what her son is doing via text. He has no idea that his mom is seeing his text messages, but because she pays, all the text messages are now being forwarded to her phone as well. This is something that you can do if you are paying for your child's phone.
We're going to open up the phone lines, Natalie. Once again, give out your ways that people can reach you if they want to ask you questions directly. How can they reach you online or otherwise?
So they can go to BAMFI.org to reach us.
Okay.
BAMFI.org.
Okay, and we'll take your calls. If you know someone that's missing in your family, maybe Natalie could give you some insight. If you want to find out more about preventive measures to make sure that your family is safe, call us 888-742-3345.
Listen, dear, I realize that
She wanted to use their platform to help bring awareness to missing people of color because she understands that there's a disparity.
See this girl? Her name is Michelle Diamante Green. If you have any information, maybe you saw somebody with her, take a good look. Go into your memory. If you find that you have just the least bit of information, please contact the authorities. It will really be a wonderful thing to reunite this family.
My phone rang. They found my baby. I just hugged her. I just reveled in that one moment that I was hugging my daughter again.
It's a call to action from the good folks over there at The View, Whoopi Goldberg and her crew. Give them a round of applause for taking this into their own hands, these matters. Natalie Wilson has joined us. She's the co-founder, chief, the COO of Black and Missing Inc. And she's given us a lot of great information. I have an 18-year-old daughter, Natalie, and I think about this all the time. I worry about her all the time. I think as most parents do about their children. And I only pray that we're giving her enough information and then she has enough wherewithal on her own to know not to make some of the mistakes that people have made through social media. But sometimes people are just getting snatched up in the vans and they have no idea that it's coming. And so thank you for this insight, Natalie, and thank you for being on the show. We got Duran on the line from Florida. Go ahead,
Hey,
Duran.
Duran.
Good morning.
Hey, Duran.
Hey, how y'all doing? Sway, HB.
Hey.
Hey, I just want to give you guys props this morning for this segment. I am enjoying this. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and my ex-wife was telling me I'm being a little paranoid, but I worry about my 13-year-old daughter. And I had a conversation with her a couple of days ago, and I said to her, I said, you know what? I want you to be, pay attention to your surroundings. She was like, what do you mean by pay attention to my surroundings? I said, well, pay attention to what's going on around you, because I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want someone to try to snatch you up or anything like that, because, I would lose my mind if something like that was to happen to my daughter. And, and I appreciate you guys for having this conversation, and it's well needed because of what's going on in this country with our young black women. And, much love to you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duran. Natalie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Duran, Natalie, I just came back from San Quentin last week, and I was speaking to some inmates that had turned, that have been working on turning their lives around, joining programs to improve themselves as individuals, and they're learning how to code, and they're learning about technology. And when one of the inmates, Duran, and Natalie, was in jail, he's going to be in jail for 200 years to life. And I said, well, what was your crime, brother? What was your crime? And it was human trafficking. So he had one of the largest human trafficking rings in the country. And I said, well, man, what is it that he was giving me all kind. What is it that you say to these girls that convince them? He said, well, Sway, I'm going to be honest with you. We targeted young girls between the ages of 14 and at the oldest, maybe 19. We found that at 14, 13, and 14, they're easier to manipulate, take advantage of. A lot of them had father issues, or, a lot of them had insecurities, and they would play up on it and then get them stuck in the rink, and they'll put them on drugs or whatever, and they'll use fear tactics where sometimes these things will be taking place in your own city. Your girl could be in the city you live in, but she's so scared, and she's put, in the back of a house or something, and that she's scared to even run away, scream, or do anything. Right. And so it's important we have these conversations. He started turning his life around and speaking to organizations on how you can track a predator. And I said, well, what made you do that? He said, well, man, they started going even younger now, man, and I just had reflected on it, and now they're recruiting 11-year-olds, 10-year-old girls. They're starting early. We have to have this conversation, Duran. We have to. We're doing the public and the community within our voice a disservice if we're not if we're talking about celebrity issues and all this different stuff we talk about for entertainment purposes, but we don't talk about this real stuff that's affecting us when we're not being entertained.
One more thing, Sway. One more thing. Fathers, you guys, you have to validate your daughters. You have to validate them and tell them that they are beautiful and tell them that they are queen and princesses and what have you. So when some knucklehead Negro come up in their face and try to tell them that, they'll be like, okay, my daddy tell me this. You tell me something else. I already know this about myself. So fathers, validate your daughters. And, it goes a long way. And because I have two. I have a 13, I have a 5, and I validate my daughters. And I'm kind of overprotective of them because I don't want nothing to happen to them. But I'm just being a father. I'm being a dad. It is what it is. So I appreciate you guys, Sway. I really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate you too.
And Sway, I just want to add that in our community, we don't believe this is happening. We're thinking it's happening overseas or somewhere else. And these girls and boys, it's not just girls and boys are becoming faceless. And the sex trafficking industry is a $32 billion industry. So we need to continue to have these conversations. I've read where a pimp said, I can make between $150,000 to $200,000 off of one girl. So when does it stop? As a community, when do we say enough is enough and we need to protect our children?
And we need to get at those Johns that are buying time with these girls. They need to be criminalized in a heavy way, the heavy arm of the law as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then take it a step further too, there's this fascination. I see a lot of girls, I'm on Facebook, people having kids. I want to be a mother. I want a baby. Nobody's fast to make their mother a mother-in-law, but a grandmother first. There's also this fascination where women are introducing their children to men and their boyfriends. You don't know who you're bringing into your home. You're bringing them around your children. You're making this so-called new boyfriend a dad to your child, and then you break up with the person, and now that so-called father figure is missing. There's a lot of psychological things going on in here as well, Sway, and I like what Deron said. Thank you for that, Natalie. That we have to start validating our young women.
Validating our young women.
Hey, Natalie, I'm curious.
And to just take it one step further, and we also need to be mindful, who are the sex pedophiles in your community? Yeah. Do you know if they're living next to you? Do you know if they're living next to your child's school, your church? So check the sex registry and see who's living next to you.
Hey, Natalie, as a call to action and to be solution-oriented with this conversation, should we begin to advocate for our police department to have a digital media component where they actually highlight and upload our missing children the way that DC did? Or do you think that is a bad way to bring awareness to our children?
No, I think that is needed. Social media is a platform that brings awareness or garner attention immediately, and we utilize that tool to bring awareness to our missing. We can't wait for the 4 or the 5 o'clock news cycle, so uploading these profiles digitally will help because, again, someone may have seen this missing individual and they can help bring them home. But again, we all have a responsibility. It's not just law enforcement or the media, but our community needs to get involved as well.
Natalie, when you mentioned the importance of checking to see what sex offenders are in the neighborhood, around the school, around the church, I'm curious, do you believe that there's a chance at full rehabilitation for pedophiles?
Oh, God. I guess we would hope so. I don't have statistics on that, so I prefer not to respond to that. I don't have statistics to say that, they're fully rehabilitated. But parents need to be mindful if something happens in their community, they know where to look.
We have Ethan on the line from New Jersey. What up, Ethan? Good morning.
Ethan.
How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. Just having this conversation. What you want to add to it?
Pretty much when I was 12, I was a victim of sexual assault when I went to a sleepaway camp. And, it hasn't really, it never goes away. It sticks to the person that's affected. And when I grew up, went to high school, blah, 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 25 now, I had 2 friends. They were 17 and they went to New York for 3 days to run away. And they ended up getting caught in human trafficking. And they were force-fed dope for about 3 days straight until one of them took a knife and actually fought her way out of the projects. And, they haven't been the same ever since. I've been trying to talk to them about it. I don't really know what to say to them.
Yeah.
This happened about 8 years ago, so it's still stuck to them very hard. And what happened to me when I was 12, and I understood, but I could never relate with them. As far as like rehabilitation for pedophiles, personally, I don't think so.
Yeah. Ethan, did your parents report what happened to you?
Yes. What happened was it was me and 3 other kids that were sexually assaulted by a 28-year-old man in Camp Mason. Sorry for dropping names. But that gentleman was to do 8 years, ended up getting out on 7 or something. I'm not even sure. I didn't think that he deserved to get out because he had multiple crimes prior. And what happened was me and the 3 kids went to the counselor and or the head director of the camp, and the head director of the camp actually told us, no, that never happened. Told us to walk away. So it took 2 other kids just to go up to him for him to call the police.
Well,
so it was some bullshit. But
hey, man, I salute you. And you're a citizen.
Sway in the morning.
And I appreciate you sharing this story with us, Ethan. That takes a lot of courage.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. All right.
I love you guys. I listen to you all the time. I'll keep on listening.
My man.
Love
my
you
man.
too.
Let me ask you this, Natalie. What are some of the success stories of Black and Missing Foundation?
Yes.
Well, since our inception, we have assisted in finding close to 200 people. Sadly, not all of them have been alive, but at least they're answers for families as to what happened to their loved one. Most recently is a young girl who was sex trafficked from Baltimore. That is our recent success. But it took an Uber driver to notice her and provided a tip. So again, and I know I've said this a number of times, our community being involved, because we can find more and bring more people home, but we can't do this by ourselves. We need everyone to get involved. We need everyone to be outraged with what's going on in our community.
Natalie, thank you for your call. I'm going to take one more caller out of L.A. It's named by the name of Yes. Yes?
Hi, it's Yesenia, but you can call me Yessie. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you're a social worker?
I'm a social worker out here for LAUSD, and, what you're talking about is a real issue. I first started hearing about, the human trafficking when I was in grad school, maybe like 7 years ago, and I was thinking, really, this is really happening here in the United States? And it is, and it's really scary, and we're finally going to get trained. We're going to have a huge training on the human trafficking because it's a real issue and it's really happening.
And you're dealing with it as a social worker. You probably see it in and around it all the time.
Yes, and it's really heartbreaking. I think one of the effects of, being because it's all connected, with a sexual assault, the trauma, it doesn't just affect, the child, of course, who has to live with everything that's happened, but it has a huge toll on the family, the parents. I have parents who feel guilty, for what's happened. There's families, for example, like a 4-year-old little girl, she was taken to daycare. Mom had to get a job because dad got hooked on drugs and she had to go to work. The child ends up being abused by the husband of the nanny, and she ends up telling the mom what happened, and come to find out that he's been abusing a lot of other kids. And now, fortunately, that man is in prison, but, mom has to carry this guilt. This would have never happened had I not gone back to work. The child is, PTSD symptoms, acting out, can't focus in school. So it's huge. It's just like a domino
effect. Yeah, and it permeates for a lifetime, like Ethan said. And then, it's interesting because a lot of times the girls who are in sex trafficking get criminalized. The pimps get some criminal, but the Johns don't as much. Like you gotta put them Johns in jail too. You gotta stop the flow of it. You gotta affect the industry of it as well. Go ahead.
Yes, and it's my understanding that out here in one of our meetings that we had is that they're actually doing something about not criminalizing the young girls because they don't have a choice. So they're actually doing something. They're going to do something about them so that they're not criminalized. for that.
Yes, thank you for your call. You're a citizen.
Sway in the morning.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing, Mike Muse.
Hey, Natalie, I keep hearing you revert back to sex trafficking, and our previous caller, Yasmin, was reverting back to sex trafficking in LAUSD. Is this, when our black and brown girls go missing, is it more so sex trafficking, and then there's a disparity with white girls? So when white girls go missing, is it also for sex trafficking, or is it something that's happening within our community that's affecting our children?
Right. We're noticing that a large number of persons or girls of color are being victims of sex trafficking. And it's because of foster care. Many of them are in foster care, or many of them are homeless, and they're being preyed upon. So that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're hearing from our community.
Natalie, I want to thank you for being on the show this morning. And we'll have you back on the show if you don't mind, because we're going to continue the conversation. No. Okay?
Right. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that you guys can join us on June 3rd as we walk to bring awareness to our missing and give hope to families.
Yes.
Okay, and the registration is only, what, $10 if you want to do
Well, the registration is $25.
Oh,
You get a T-shirt, you get a bag, and early registration ends on Friday.
And early registration is how much?
Early registration is $25.
Oh, okay, that's $25. Okay.
Yeah,
What you're seeing, Sway, you're right. You're seeing the $10 off.
$10 off. Oh, okay, cool.
And then after Friday, it's $35 to register, and every dollar goes to families. Derica and I do not take a salary at all. Every dollar we receive goes to the families.
Natalie, are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yes. BAM_FI.
So it's like black and missing _FI?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. We appreciate you, okay?
You're welcome.
All right. Natalie Wilson.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
Bye-bye, yeah.
Much needed conversation, Sway.
Absolutely.
I mean, my God.
Thank you for bringing that to the forefront, especially if an expert.
Man, my daughter hit me over the weekend and told me she was in the Bronx, and she went up to a spot that me and Rich Nice go to all the time off of Gun Hill Road. And if anybody know that area, you got to be on point.
Right.
And she went up there to meet with friends of mine that she met, as she used to come here every summer, and I'll take her up to meet the men that I hang out with, you know. And she went to see those people so much because they're like family that she took it upon herself to go up there by herself. And this was around the same time, you know, this conversation started happening. That's a beautiful young lady. And it just, you know, I was happy she took it upon herself to go see the family. But at the same time, I know she doesn't know that area. And I had to let her know, don't do that again by yourself. You know, make sure we know about it, you know your movement, the whole nine. And her response was absolutely, you know, and that's because we communicate like that. But I worry about everybody's daughter. I worry about all these kids, man. These kids are innocent. And these grown-ups preying on them like that, they're the scum of the earth to me. You know, I have no respect for it. You know, and a lot of dudes like to praise pimps and all of that. And a lot of my friends, I'm from Oakland. It's a pimp town. You know, I have no respect for that whatsoever, because you can't find a way to make money. You know, you make it off of someone else's misery, take advantage of an infant, of a child. I have no respect for that.
11 years old.
11 years old. I have none. No respect. I'm sorry. I'm not
you
even
don't have to be sorry.
I have no respect for that.
Zero.
So that's why we're going to continue this conversation.
So what came out of that with Natalie was that there's a system with the foster care. So if we can really pinpoint that and make change around that, that could help. That goes back to your local congressman and really advocating and getting that on the ballots, getting your congressman to push for that legislation. So what I took away from that is there are things that we can do systematically to help prevent this sex trafficking that are affecting black and browns disproportionately.
Limit it, you know, or get rid of it, eradicate it altogether. You know, it's a lot of scummy people who work in different places that allow those things to happen. You think people don't see these girls getting abducted out of foster care and not saying nothing? Some of them get kickbacks.
Turning a blind
I'm
eye.
not generalizing every foster care worker. Most of them are beautiful people that care for folks, but you gotta clean out this whole system. You know. All right, up next, man. Let's just play a song and we'll figure it out. Sway in the morning, Shade 4-5.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45. Kilo.